Well, each week a group of insiders joins me to offer perspective on some of the week's top stories. This week sounding off on the coronavirus and its substantial impact on the Indiana economy. Plus, we'll take a look at the winners and losers from the just completed session of the Indiana General Assembly. Joining me this week on the Insiders, pleased to be joined by IndyPolitics.org publisher Abdul-Hakim Shabazz. Also, Indiana Chamber of Commerce Senior Vice President of Communications and Operations, Tom Schuman. And we're set up in this age of coronavirus separately here, so we're keeping that distance between us this week. But gentlemen, thanks for joining us on the Insiders. Want to begin this week with winners and losers from the Indiana State House. Going to be talking a lot about coronavirus here. But Tom, I'll start with you. As you look at the Indiana General Assembly just completed session, your big takeaway.
Well, Gary, a couple things. You know, we reducing or increasing the smoking age from 18 to 21. That was a priority. Of course, federal action took place on that before the state lawmakers came in. But we need to go farther there. We need to increase the cigarette tax. We need to institute a vaping tax, so more to come in 21. Same with healthcare costs. You know, some initial steps taken, but even the legislators themselves admitted this is a long-term challenge, reducing those costs for employers and employees.
Abdul, as you look at winners and losers, or your big takeaway, really, a short session, didn't seem to be a lot of hot button issues. Your big takeaway?
My big takeaway was actually toward the end, and how there was a really lot of tension between both the House side and the Senate side of things, whether it was legislation regarding Indigo that came out of the Senate, legislation regarding the Attorney General and how he could be removed from office should he lose his law license or be temporarily suspended, and how lawmakers got along so much on so many other things, but those two, there was not a lot of love lost between both the House and the Senate.
Yeah, Tom, I want to go back to you one more time to double check. I think you mentioned this, but the chamber has been so focused on health and health-related issues, smoking, vaping, those issues. You see those as real focus areas for the chamber and the business community going forward?
Absolutely. That'll be one of the areas, summer study and beyond. Energy costs. You know, there's a lot of time spent on a bill this legislative session that didn't really end up doing a whole lot, which proved to be a good thing. But, you know, Indiana energy costs used to be amongst the top 5 or 6 best in the country. Now we're middle of the pack. Chamber's doing a study. General Assembly has a task force. So those are a couple areas that'll be the focus moving forward.
Obviously, coronavirus at the top of the news around the globe right now. Here in Indiana, lots we can talk about on this. Governor Holcomb, late in the week, extended the state of emergency in Indiana into May, closing schools into the 1st of May as well. Abdul, I'll start with you. As you look at impacts, so many major events have been either delayed, postponed, or in fact canceled. Lots of impacts on business. Your take as we're really getting into the heart of this situation.
Yeah, I think this past week or so, we are really starting to see what the impact of the steps that are necessary to mitigate the coronavirus, whether it is, once again, you know, so many schools closing across Indiana between now and May, the fact, you know, restaurants, you know, bars, nightclubs, all that economic activity, and then what it rolls into, because remember, when people aren't out spending money, that's less money for the state coffers, that's less money for social services, and it's at a time when government usually needs those funds to help mitigate, you know, some of the damages of these things. So take it. I always say take it seriously, folks, because it is here, and we're nowhere near seeing the end of the light at the end of the tunnel yet.
Yeah, Tom, so many impacts on business when you talk about restaurants and bars closing down except for carry-out and drive-through, essentially. The auto plants, all of them closing at least for a short period of time. Malls closing. As you look at the business impact that is hit now, but you know, could be going on for a while. Your take on where you see this going?
Well, a couple of numbers in terms of workers that the governor and his team shared. A year ago, about 3,000 people filed for unemployment during the course of the week. In 3 days, this past week, there were 22,000 people. Wow. And that's only going to multiply extensiply as we go on. Again, you're right on businesses. Some of the relationships that take place, the supply chain, suppliers and vendors, the relationships there, contracts that are going to be impacted. You had Matt Will on talking about some of these impacts. They're going to be widespread, and what is so challenging is we don't know when the end date is. If we were sitting here looking at a 30-day period and then things were going to kind of go back to normal, we could deal with it. But we don't know when that turning point's going to be where things will start to return to normal.
Yeah, Tom, I'll start with you on this, but you had mentioned it off camera a little while ago that we're seeing businesses step up in a lot of ways. Certainly Roche with getting out these testing kits in record time, 400,000 a week producing, coming out of, from a distribution standpoint, Indianapolis. Eli Lilly and Company, the State Department of Health, combining to increase testing. Business in many ways, it's been nice to see folks collaborate and step up here.
Absolutely, Gary. It's not surprising at all. This is what we would expect in Indiana, that businesses would do whatever they can. It's not only the big companies, it's small organizations, and anything from supporting the nonprofits, supporting the local restaurants. You know, a company might send a lunch over to the local hospital, to the ER, to take care of that staff that's working so hard. So again, having businesses do this, one of the great things about being in Indiana, and we're sure that's going to continue.
Abdul, on the political side, at least if you look at the national level, there seems to be a level of cooperation or collaboration, kind of some good faith efforts to work together. Do you think that that is going to last very long? There's been so much political division. Do you think that can be an outgrowth of this pandemic? Well,
if one of the effects of the coronavirus is, more bipartisan people working together, then can we have another one, please? I mean, just be honest with you. No, it is good to see.
Maybe a milder version.
Yeah, maybe a milder version, because my wife will take the milder version to get me out of the house and away from her half the time. Yeah, no, I think it's good when lawmakers can come together, put aside their partisan differences and actually work to get something done. We have that here. In Indiana, Democrats have made some suggestions about what the government should do. The Holcomb administration, by design or default, looks like they're listening. So, I always say for every one person we see on television hoarding toilet paper, there's somebody out there who is doing the right thing, for their fellow human beings.
I'll start with you on this, Abdul, but I don't want to give grades on this, but as you look at the approach the state, Governor Holcomb, the administration has taken, and the steps they've taken, some pretty substantial steps, how would you assess the response at the state level, at least, to the pandemic?
I think where we are right now, I give the Holcomb administration A-, B+. There's always a little bit of room for improvement, but at the same time, we are in uncharted territory. We've never had something like this before. I mean, even, I guess the best you could cope is maybe shortly after 9/11, we had that, sort of, period of uncertainty. But I would say at least right now, with the pandemic that we're seeing, I give them an A-, B+.
Tom, your take on the response?
It's interesting, Gary, and Dr. Box, our state health commissioner, explained this the other day in a call with our chamber executive committee. Indiana was fortunate we were not one of the first states that suffered the impacts of this. That was the good news. The bad news was the same thing. That means we had less access to some of these testing kits and some of the resources that are being used nationally. But I agree with Abdul. The state is doing a great job. They've outlined, they're moving aggressively. They're doing things, taking steps to help, not only business, but Hoosiers and citizens adapt as best they can.
15 seconds, but Tom, real quickly, what are Indiana businesses, small and large, what are they going to need going forward? Well,
we encourage, there's so many organizations out there helping. We encourage people to go to our chamber, to a resource page. We're linking them to all that information. It's just the support, and they just need things to get back as close to business as normal as soon as possible.
Tom Schuman with the Indiana Chamber of Commerce, Senior Vice President of Communications and Operations. Abdul-Hakim Shabazz, a publisher at indypolitics.org. Thank you both for joining us with some great perspective as always. And I'll be right back after this. Stay with us.